Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I'm your host, the dad bod god, the ball, the beard, and the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight, my guest is making her return. It was June of last year since she's since been on the show. And in that time, Cherry Stevens has been absolutely killing it. She's been getting some of the biggest pops in the crowd that you will absolutely hear in any show. I'm excited to have Cherry on, but before we get into my conversation with Cherry Stevens, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Sleefs. Now, Sleefs.com, that's SLEEFS. Sleefs is your one-stop shop for all your athletic wear. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, headbands, boots, mouth guards, and they've even got those dirty boxes you always hear me raving about. Guys, I've said it for so long. These dirty boxes are the comfortable boxes I own, actually throughout all my other boxes. They stay dry, they stay fresh, and they've got some funky designs on the front of them as well to keep that special person in your life having a little bit of a giggle at the end of the day. But guys, make sure you check out Sleeves. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. And wherever you're finding us, I appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, share, leave us a comment, and hit the bell to stay notified. If you're listening on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. It helps us out a great deal, helps us reach more amazing people and have more amazing conversations for all you amazing people. So help us out. 5-star review. Much appreciated. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone else, let's get into my conversation with the one and only Cherry fucking Stevens. Cherry Stevens, welcome back to the show. It's good to see you.
Hi, great to see you too, Piers.
How's it been going? Like, as I said, it's been a year since we've had you on, or June last year, so over a year since we've last spoken to you on the podcast. And as I said, you've kind of been killing it. Like the last show that I was at, the pop that you got was absolutely insane.
I can't believe that it's been that long. That has just flown by. But when I think about it, so much has happened. You know, that show, the end of me being the Goober Report intern, right? That one you're talking about?
Yeah.
What a time. That was a lot of fun for me, obviously. And I'm very much looking forward to my title shot on Friday.
So, like, coming, up through, like, into, going into your first main event, like, what is the nerves like leading up to this show? Is this like more intense than, shows that you've done previously? And if it is, how so?
Yes, I think that when you're up against someone like Mick Moretti, who's just completely dominating the Australian scene at the moment, I can't think of anyone who's really at the top like he is. There's obviously a lot of big fight feels and a lot of anxiety as to whether I am ready for that. I think I am. Until I'm there and I'm in it, then I'll know. And obviously then the result will reflect that. But there's a lot of preparation that goes into it as well. I've not only been doing a lot of exercise and a lot of extra training, I'm on some stupid ass diet at the moment just to try to get myself really into shape, at least to match Mick Moretti's ridiculous figure. So I don't look like a potato next to him too. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of tape work, you're watching past matches, you're jotting down ideas, you're thinking of reversals, what could he possibly pull out of his pocket? Yeah, it's pretty much consumed my thoughts for the last good month or longer.
And talking about the show where you left the Goober report, when you got that reaction when you came out for that match, like were you expecting that type of reaction? Like what was your feeling once you sort of walked out and was like, holy shit? Because like the factory theater, like absolutely, like the roof was raised.
Um, I guess I can never say that I expect it. We never know what the crowd is going to give us when we kind of have these kind of stories on our shows. But I think just the feeling that I was having of like getting a comeuppance on Ketis, and I think that the crowd can feel that and recognize that, and they kind of came up with me. And obviously they were really happy that now I'm not under his thumb anymore and taking any more of his shit. So I guess it was very cathartic for myself and the audience at the same time, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, like it almost felt like it was like, the as the story played out, it was like this empowering moment for you where it's like, Cherry Stevens, the character, had really sort of like said, hey, no, like I'm not going to be stepped on anymore. Fuck this. Like now's my time to shine.
Yeah, and that was really the straw was Fudge and the bet and finding that out. And I think all that anger I got to take out on both of them as we turned it into a triple threat match with the key to the card. So yeah, I think it was quite a defining moment for Cherry Stevens.
Oh, absolutely. And going into that as well, like for yourself, looking at, Ketis and Fudge, who have been around for a while. And, I find like that the fact that you could slot in there and from an entertainment value and a comedic value with two guys who are just like, I think are timeless when it comes to comedy. And I've put you over as well many times where I think your comedic timing is fantastic. But what we saw with the three of you was just absolute brilliant. Like it was so hilarious. Like the parts that you all played throughout the whole story that you told was amazing.
Yeah, I think we're very story focused. We were very focused on the minute details, and the best thing about working together in these kind of stories is that we all have different ideas that we can all build on. So it ends up being way cooler. Like I might have a cool idea, and then like Ketis or Fudge have another idea, and it just builds and builds until we get this perfect thing that we're like, yes, this is it. We're gonna execute. We know we can execute, and we hope for the best.
But like, do you like if and I'm not saying to sort of give away anything that's going to happen, but like, say for example, like your character does go over and win the championship off Mick Moretti, right? Like, does that mean that Fudge has then won the bet essentially? Like, is that the
Well,
storyline that it would play out, or is that story done and now it's more focused on you?
well, I think that at the end of of that show that we were talking about, actually, it was the show after that, the Paint It Black Label.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Fudge and Ketis had a moment in the ring where Fudge mentioned that the bet was still on. So that's very much still a thing, and I'm definitely not doing it to help Fudge win a bet. Fuck Fudge. Sorry. Uh, yeah, fuck both of them. But yeah, I think that's still on, and whatever. Good luck to them. I mean, Ketis is such a tight ass. He probably bet like $5 or something stupid, and Fudge is Fudge, so he'll take whatever.
Fair enough. But for yourself, like what's your sort of goal now moving forward? Like obviously, going into now a main event for PWA, which is essentially the biggest company here in Australia, like give or take. What's the next step for you following this show? Like, do you want to now sort of start really sort of ramping up where you're going to be, trying to get bookings as many different places as you can to sort of get your name out there more?
Yeah, I really want to keep up the big match kind of fights, and I'm lucky to do that in PWA with the amazing roster that we have. but I also want to get out there and show what PWA has with other promotions. So I would love to do a lot more interstate shows if possible. Delta's on my list, Edith Knight's on my list from Perth. And like my ultimate goal, which I hope that I can achieve sometime next year, and it could happen because Japan is opening up, and that would be going to at least have some sort of stint, or even literally if I could just go have a training session with like the Stardom girls or something, I would be happy. I think the ultimate goal for me is, yes, something in Japan, a run in Japan would be cool. But to just maintain the momentum that I have in Australia as well. Definitely at PWA, but also around Australia, if I can.
You mentioned Japan, and one of the things I wanted to ask, since you brought it up, like New Japan, which is the biggest promotion over in Japan, they don't have like a women's championship. They don't really like showcase women's wrestling. And we've seen some amazing talent from the Japanese women coming out of Japan. Why do you think that they're not given the opportunity on one of the biggest stages over there?
It probably just comes down to more of like Japan's societal norms. I mean, I studied Japanese, so I probably, and I lived there for a bit, so people might not agree with it, but this is my perception anyway, is that they kind of have their genders in very defined boxes. Still, I think it's like quite hard to kind of break out of those as a Japanese person. So I think that's why they keep it separated, although there is some movement because there is going to be a New Japan show, and I can't remember what the name of it is, in November, but they will actually have some of the Stardom girls on it in tag team matches. But I don't think it's how we do it, where we're like mixed, right? Like we can go in with each other. They will stick to, I think if the girl tags in, then the other girl has to tag in. Like it's not necessarily that you can fight like girl on guy. Yeah. But I was talking to Robbie Eagles about it the other day and how cool that was. And he's like, yeah, well, I said it could be better, but he's like, yeah, baby steps. So, I mean, if we're seeing that start to happen now, what might happen in the next year or two, a couple of years, who knows? We could see, some pretty cool shit.
But even then, like I think, like as you said, the Japanese culture, which is very defined roles for their like males and females. Even then, like you look at when like women sort of came into like the UFC, which wasn't really that long ago, and even like women being showcased like in the Western world in professional wrestling, which again isn't really that long ago. So yeah. I think I agree with what you were saying. I think Japan over the next probably few years will definitely have. I think they'll be forced to catch up. Really.
Yeah, I think so. I think especially when we're putting ourselves on the map over here in Australia with what we do. And if people can like open up and maybe try being a bit more, not too boxed in with like who needs to fight who based on gender, more based on ability. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. If you were to go over to Japan, have you got any like dream opponents that you'd like to work when you're over there?
Oh yeah, I like a lot of the Stardom girls. So my favorite would be Suri. I think you say it's Suri. And funnily enough, I think she was in UFC, or she did MMA as well, and then came to wrestling. So her wrestling style is really cool because it's got that MMA influence, and she's like quite a good grappler, but she can do everything else as well. She's like a great all-rounder. I'm pretty sure she's their champion at the moment. Natsupoi, Sayakamitami. I don't know if you know any of these names. Utami Hayashita. Just pretty much like all of their roster are just really cool. And they have such young girls too that are wrestling. They're like, still teenagers, and they're killing it. And I'm just like, oh, wow. I just to be surrounded in that environment in Japan with wrestling. Yeah, absolute dream.
I think as well, like the talent that they have over there, because they're so dedicated, and like the Japanese culture, which is so like, very focused and very like driven and hard. Yeah, exactly. Like I think that's also why we see such amazing talent coming through from
Yeah,
that.
that's very Japanese, is like you pick one thing and you become extremely, extremely good at it. So that's why they're such master craftsmen with so many things. And that's why their wrestling craft is the same, because they have that mentality.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Adam Poker in the chat says, definitely to me, the Australia has set a high standard of women that wrestle.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd agree to that extent, because I honestly believe that we have some of the best, female performers in the world, and we see that on shows.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. And I'm so glad that I get to train and work with these girls. They're incredible.
Yeah. Do you find like when you are wrestling like a male, like is there any differences that you find when you're in the ring? Like if you're having a match in front of people, is there certain things that you like, for example, like would do differently, whether it be psychology wise, move wise, than you would if you were wrestling someone who is of opposite gender? And it doesn't matter the size or anything, but it's just something that I've wondered.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think the only thing that would be different when we look at genders like that is more the amount of moves that we can do. So if we have like two girls like me and Jess who are kind of the same size, we can wrestle how we wrestle, but we're also pretty good kind of high flyers.
Yeah.
Whereas we're not kind of able to, the guys can really like pick us up and throw us around, and we can do really cool stuff like that. We might be limited with two women doing that. We can tell a different story though. I mean, that's much more from the physical side of it. But going into a match where it's like, guy and girl, I don't really think of it from a gender perspective. It's more just like, what can each of our characters bring? And that's just with everyone.
So it's more like telling, like basically, and I think it's also different depending on if you're wrestling someone who's bigger than you or smaller than you as well.
Yeah.
Like how you wrestle, you know what I mean? Because I think then yeah, to me it's like it comes down to believability, and I believe like you know what I mean. I've done jiu-jitsu, I've done MMA, I've done sparring with stuff like that. I've had the shit kicked out of me by women, so I believe I know that it depends on that skill level, and that's where I think that common punters and probably fans who haven't been in a combat sport or experienced something like that can't really grasp their heads around it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like if I was to roll with Ronda Rousey, she would take my arm in a second. You know what I mean? Like that's just reality because she's at a higher level.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people would cry like domestic violence kind of thing when they see, a male and a female in the ring, which is just like doesn't make any sense to me at all, unless for some reason that's the story you're portraying, which would be weird. And I think on top of your last question, like maybe depending on who's actually watching the show, if they're not a regular, they're not used to things, if you've got some random people maybe watching for the first time and don't really understand women's wrestling, then they might very well just like get up and walk away when they see two girls come to the ring. If there's a girl and a guy, that might be more interesting to them and be like, oh, what's this going to be like? So I guess that could also affect the perception from the audience's perspective. Yeah.
But you say like, some people say from a domestic violence like standpoint, like I'm a father of a little girl, and I've sat there and I've put on PWA shows, in front of her, and she sat there and watched, male and female performers wrestle each other. And she's like, she looks at it like going, wow, the girls can get in there and they can fight the guys.
Yeah. Well,
You know what I mean? And to a 4-year-old girl, that shit is like, holy shit, yeah, like I'm just as like, you know what I mean? Like the old stigma is like, oh, this and you know what I mean? Like men are just more superior physically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she's growing up in a different generation where I sit there and go, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But to her to look at that and go, wow, that is cool. Like I'm a little girl. I could grow up and be a superstar. I could be a badass. Like, this
and
awesome.
props to you for showing her those matches too. I think when you've grown up only watching a certain type of match, then you obviously have that stigma that's hard to get rid of. But if we just cut that out completely and from the start, don't mess with like little kids' heads about all this shit. Just be like, doesn't matter, girl or boy, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. And that's the and the future shock says they can all beat the shit out of me.
Hi, Josie.
JT in the house. Yeah, you know what? But that's exactly right. I agree, and that's why, like, I grew up, being not a fan of, like, you know what I mean? Because when I grew up, it was different. You don't hit girls. That was always instilled into your head as a kid growing up. So
Yeah.
to me, like, I got into to wrestling where it's like, okay, I can sit there and watch whoever in a wrestling match. Probably in the last few years when I started coming to PWA shows, going, holy shit, this is just amazing wrestling. Like, I can disconnect and not think about the gender of these performers and just see a great match.
Yeah, yeah. Just think of us as our characters, really. Like, there doesn't need to be any kind of segmentation, I think.
No,
Yeah.
I definitely agree. But as I said before, like after this show, like leading up, your plan is to try and get onto more shows and to go out there. When we asked you last time, when you broke into wrestling, it was like you weren't really a fan of it. You sort of like not fell into it, but sort of found it and went, wow, okay, cool. This is amazing. I want to try this. And we've seen your character and you develop as a performer over the last couple of years to up and being a main eventer now at PWA this Friday. What do you think has been, your biggest asset to reach this level so quickly?
Ridiculous amount of commitment, I think. I don't know. I think that because, and I don't know if I mentioned this last time we spoke, but because I got into it later than most people who've already got like 5-6 years experience under their belt, I was like, I need to fucking catch up. And because I looked up to all these people that were so amazing at wrestling and I wanted to be there. I mean, I remember I mentioned this to someone at the other show, Lena Cross. I had like a seminar with her, I want to say in the first couple of months or 6 months, maybe, that I was training at PWA. She was really good. And I was like, oh my God, you're so good. How long have you been wrestling for? And she was like, 3 years. And I was like, oh God, okay, I have to wrestle for 3 years. I have to train for 3 years to get as good as you. And then I have to train for 5 years or 7 years or however long Jessica Troy has trained to get as good as Jessica Troy. And then I have to train for 15 years to get as good as Shazza McKenzie. So I kind of can see those like goalposts in front of me, like it is achievable. And so I knew that if I just kept working, like I'll get there. Everyone else has gotten there in their time. Maybe if I just work twice as hard, I can get there a bit faster. So that's kind of what happened. And then I realized kind of at the start of this year, end of last year, I was like, oh, I ran into Lena. She was at our Rumble, PWA Rumble at the Metro. And I was thinking about that. And I was like, I've been wrestling for 3 years now. I'm there now. It's gone so fast and I'm here. And I think having this title shot is just like confirmation of the hard work that I've put in. So it's good. It's ongoing, but it's always rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the hard work that you're putting in, like, was it just doing like extra training sessions, like spending a lot of time, watching wrestling? Like, what was it that you were doing that was really going that above and beyond?
Yeah, I did, our regular wrestling classes, which were 4 to 5 nights a week. I was going to like every single class. I was doing private lessons every now and then with our coaches on the weekends. I signed up to do gymnastics because I was like, I want to know how to flip like Paris. Like, I want to know how to do like a shooting star press or a senton or something. So I did gymnastics course for like 3 months to kind of and build strength and stuff there as well. I started doing martial arts again this year too. So I used to a long time ago do Wing Chun, like Kung Fu. And I took that up again this year because I was like, I want to add something unique again to my arsenal that maybe no one else would be able to have. So I think that I'm always looking to improve myself so I can get to the levels of certain people at PWA who I really admire what they do in their own way, in their own style, people like Paris,
Sure.
but also take on things that still interest me and are going to benefit my wrestling in some way too. So it's all of that. Like that's a lot of the physical side of it. And then on the other side is, yeah, definitely watching a lot more wrestling, a lot more Japanese wrestling. And so all of that together is made for a very busy life.
What is it about Japanese wrestling that you are drawn to mainly?
I'm just drawn to anything Japanese,
So
anything Japan.
it's more the Japanese culture that sort of gets you in as well.
Japanese culture. I love their dramatic entrances and their long jackets and their awesome outfits and the way that they do their poses, or how Maki Ito comes in and like sings her entrance song, and then like the way that they announce their matches, and then the match itself is just, you know, entirely this amazing thing. And then all their promos, they're like backstage promos. I like watch that. I use that as like a promo training / Japanese language learning tool. So it really is just everything in about Japanese wrestling.
Do you speak Japanese fluently?
Not fluently. Robbie likes to say I do, but I definitely don't. I have been learning it for a long time, and I can hold a conversation, but I get really nervous if I have to, like, if someone asks me to translate or something, I get very nervous. But yeah, I can get by. I mean, I have everyday Japanese, I would say.
Everyday Japanese, like you
Yeah.
can sort of find out, hey, where can I get
Yeah.
a beer? Where can I get a sandwich? Yeah.
How many
So,
children do you have? Yeah.
oh, that's all right. I mean, you've got like the basics covered. So, like, if you were to get a contract in Japan, you'd be like, all right, I could go here and be fine, and it's gonna
Yeah,
be
I think that's another benefit. Exactly. Yeah. And try to incorporate my Japanese into my wrestling too, a bit. So
so you could see Cherry Stevens, going into doing like a Japanese gimmick somewhere down the line.
ooh, yeah, maybe not. Yeah, we'd have to flesh it out a bit, but definitely Japanese adjacent, or inspired, I guess would be the best word.
Oh, 100%. But, for yourself now, like, wrestling, in other promotions, do you think that your character would have to change at all going to different promotions?
No, because I still want to keep the essence of who I am. That is me at the heart of it, and that's why my wrestling speaks to people. I think I wouldn't want to change that, but inevitably, you know, what you do or what facet of your character that you draw on or, you know, make bigger really depends on, again, the story you're trying to tell and your opponent. So it really just depends.
Yeah. And, for yourself, with, this match, if you are successful, to win the PWA Soul, the PWA Championship, like what matches interest you the most in PWA?
Good question. Within the PWA roster,
Sure.
yeah. Uh, I'd love to have a Just Troy match on a PWA show. That would be awesome. We did MCW, but I want to bring it home to PWA. I'd really like to have a match with Bonza because he's got that real grappling, hard hitting kind of style, and I kind of like that, and I want to test myself against that. So those are the two off the top of my head that I would want to go after.
What about outside of PWA? Like, let's say, like Australia wide.
Okay, this is weird, but the first person that popped into my head was Tommy Knight, just because that would be a
Jesus.
fun match, right? Can you imagine? He
That
would
would be ridiculous.
the roof. Like yeah, let's say Tommy Knight. And he's awesome.
Jesus. You would be airborne.
Yeah. See ya.
That's nuts. But, I think as well, like there's so much talent coming up in Australia that there's like, seeing like even at the PWA, Academy Showcase the other week, like
Yeah.
seeing, and I was saying this to JT, it's like some of these, people having their first matches
I was like blown away. I was like, no way, come on.
Yeah.
Like it was like didn't seem like there was anyone there that looked out of place, if that makes sense. Like everyone just seemed so fluent.
Yeah, yeah, they were incredible. And I don't think we've had a PWA showcase since my debut, I want to say. Maybe like that kind of showcase where we debut a bunch of new rookies. Where I had David Streamer and Pidgey as well when we were Green Dingoes. Might have been one. I don't know. We had COVID in between. But yeah, the amount of new rookies that debuted and fucking killed it, like blew my mind. I was so excited. I was standing there on the outside after my match watching everyone, and I was just like, felt really proud too, because I don't know, just working with them and seeing them be able to do what I've seen them do at training in front of an audience, and to get a taste of that feeling that we all do this for, that made me really happy.
But like, what, like, is there much like if you're having a training match, right? Compare that to having a match in front of like a live crowd. Like, how much of a difference is a live crowd during a performance?
Hugely. When we're training, we kind of have, if we do have the class watching, what we're doing in the ring, it's like one-sided. So you're like all towards there. The crowd's like all around you. So you got to remember to work there. You got to remember to have your face up so they can see you. You have to feed off of what they're giving you too, and you might have to pivot if it's not working. So it really is, quite different to what we would do at training. We get down all of the technical and the mechanical things at training, and we try to do it like we're in a show, but there's really nothing like when you're on a show, and especially for the first time, it's terrifying.
Yeah, like for you, like the first time you did a show in front of people, like what was the thought going through your head when you walked out of the crowd of the curtain for the first
time? Do my pose one, and stop for my nameplate straight off the bat. Don't forget Jax's video boy Jax's instructions. And then I think the rest of it was just trying to get through the match. When it's your first match, you really just want to make sure that you're doing everything well technically. And then from there, the more exposure you get to the crowds, you're going to build on all those other aspects of what pro wrestling is about. Crowd work, promo stuff, certain reactions, all those other things. But I think your first match is just fucking get through it without breathe. Or making someone, and breathe. Yeah, don't forget to breathe.
Oh man, like I can imagine like a lot of people would like almost like gas themselves out going into the first match of just being not breathing properly, or just being like so hyped up and just sort of having like this massive adrenaline dump.
We are very big on breathing at PWA, obviously, but finding the right time to take your breath so you can go when you need to. It's actually quite a hard skill to learn, because you've got the physical side of it, you've got like your voice coming out. It's really hard to control. So we are always, I reckon at least like 5 times during a training session, there's always a moment where like Mick Reddy is like, breathe. Like, and I'm like, oh, I forgot I wasn't breathing at all.
Well, I suppose as well, like it's important just to keep that composure though. Like when you're
the composure, and
out, like you've just blown
know where you are. Otherwise, you're getting hyped up, you're getting out of breath, you're getting anxious, all falls apart. So it really helps to just settle you, calm your nerves, do what's next.
Have you ever had that happen in a match where you've just sort of like started hyperventilating, just started freaking out? If you have, like, how did you sort of like get yourself back to like normalcy?
Luckily, I actually haven't had that occur that much. I would say that my biggest test would have been with Robbie at our Campbelltown show a couple of months ago. He pushed me to get to that like big match kind of Jerry, and that was a wake up call for sure. I think that until you get shown where you can be, or until you keep pushing the limit more and more and more, you don't realize actually how much you were sitting back, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely making sure you have composure is a good one, but I don't think I've ever, like, completely had a meltdown or freaked out in a match before, not that I can remember, or not that I couldn't recover from quickly, and so yeah, not
You've had
obviously.
like those moments where you're like, oh shit, but you just sort of pull yourself back and go, okay, we got to sort of focus here and just move on to the next bit.
Yeah, you got to. It's live. It's happening right now. Like, there's no retake. You got to just pull your shit together.
Yeah, because I kind of feel like you'd be in that spot where it's like you kind of you have to do it, right? Like you have to sort of just.
Or what are you gonna do? Stand up, and be like, "Sorry, guys, I'm just having a little meltdown. Can we take a break?" Or like, "This is over now." You
Let's just go to a commercial.
gotta do that. No. So yeah, you gotta prepare yourself for that, and you gotta be ready.
Yeah, like did you like find, because you have had like a pretty like steady rise, since you making your debut, have you felt like there's been any jealousy from anyone at all? Like, or is there,
No.
like, obviously not naming names, but has there been like there's been no jealousy? So people are like, oh, she's putting in the work, she deserves what she's getting.
No, I haven't heard anything like that, and I don't think that we get like that at all in PWA. I think we're so supportive of each other. Um, I've never felt jealous of other people having opportunities. I'm happy for them. So I think that we all feel that at PWA, because we're all just working so closely together all the time. We're just like one giant organism. It's the PWA organism. So if one thing good happens to someone else, it happens to all of us.
Yeah, I feel like the Australian wrestling scene really does it well, where it's like more of a community, where it's like you've heard like like horror stories of like how political wrestling can be and has been over the years, whereas now you see it's much more like from the Australian like standpoint, it's much more supportive. Everyone wants to see everyone succeed, because the bigger
Mm.
picture is if you succeed, then
We all,
this other person succeeds, and then everyone else succeeds because
and
they're all
Australian
brought up to that
wrestling.
level.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've heard that about the US, that it's very individualistic, and obviously because you've got, those major promotions over there that people are fighting for a spot on. Maybe you do have to be that way. But right now, with the situation that we have in Australia, cross promotion, yeah, we might have some feuds or whatever, but really we're all in it together. We're all for each other.
And I think like there's healthy competition, which is good.
Yeah,
But
that's
like
big.
as far as like seeing like jealousy or even like people that are bitter, like I'm around a lot of shows, like you don't see it on the
No,
Australian scene.
no, I've never experienced that.
We've got Joel Southgate in the chat. If Cherry wins, the place will go insane this Friday night. I think
Oh,
it. I think it will. Like that. Like I said, going back to that pop that you got at the Factory Theatre, like when you came out, that was ridiculous. Like that was one of the loudest pops I've heard in a long time.
yeah, but it's Mick Moretti. Like, he gets a huge pop too. Maybe it'll just be double pop. Double pops
Who
all
knows?
around.
Who knows? It might be. I reckon it'll be a pretty fire night. But with wrestling now, like, do you look at it as going, okay, this is what I want to be, doing for a career? Like, this is where I want to go. I want to get signed. Where's your like goal at for wrestling? Like, what is your, carrot, dangling carrot in front of you, so to speak?
Yeah. So I would go back to that. If I could end my wrestling career on any note, it would be in Japan. My aim is not to get signed. I have a life that I really enjoy here. I have my friends at PWA that I love, and I love being at PWA and being at the shows, and I just want to see it grow. And I'm going to keep doing this until, as usual with wrestling, either your body breaks down at some point or something happens and you have to stop, or it's not fun anymore. And it's been the most fun I've had in my entire life for the past nearly 4 years now, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. So that's kind of my timeline, my cherry timeline.
The cherry time. So, like 4 years in, how is the body holding up? Like, have you had any serious injuries? Like, like is like daily soreness just part of like your life now, or like?
You get conditioned pretty well to it. So like the soreness doesn't last as long as it used to. I'm also lucky that I haven't had any major injuries. The only thing that I did was dislocate my pinky. And I've never broken a bone before. And so that really freaked me out. And
Was
everyone
it
was
like
laughing.
sticking out to the side, or what?
Like,
Oh,
it was at
God.
training one night and I had to get it done. But you know how annoying it is? And Jude London can attest to this because he messaged me when he was on his tour in the UK and he's like, "Oh, Cherry, I dislocated my pinky. It's actually so bad." And I was like, "Yeah, now you know. You have to do like hand therapy for your one little pinky because once it gets dislocated, it can't like bend as well. And then it's hard to grip things. And then if you think about like having to like do a handstand, like if you're this is sore or like do a- anything with your hands, it's just like really off-putting. And so even though it's been ages, I still tape it up just in case. I don't want to like re-dislocate it. So that's my very, very exciting injury story.
But were you out for a period of time with it?
Yeah, I couldn't wrestle for like 6 weeks. It was horrible. I was like, because of this. Everything else is fine. This I just couldn't because I couldn't lock up, I couldn't like knuckle lock, I couldn't use this. And the thing is like if you go early and you keep annoying it, it's not ever gonna get better. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll become a runner. And then I went for like 2 runs and I was like, I fucking hate this. So
Running sucks.
running is awful. um but it was the only thing that I could do that didn't hurt my finger. So anyway, I got over that and now it's fine.
Adam says he's definitely been there through soccer. So it's,
yeah.
yeah, I think pinkies and toes, like when you break them, because it's like they can't really like plaster them up. Like there's
No,
nothing.
but it's embarrassing to say that to people. Like, I can't do this because of my pinky. And they're like, really? And it's like, yes. Really.
That's kind of like, I'd really like to come, but I broke my pinky toe. Or
Okay, fine. Just say you don't want to come.
100%. But for you, like, is like going in and looking at doing like tag team wrestling, like, is that something that interests you as well? Like,
It definitely does. I love being a singles wrestler. I love putting 100% of the effort, but having a tag team partner, that also does open up the opportunity for more belts too. And there isn't really any all female tag team partners. I think maybe one in Perth with Stella Nix, but that's relatively new. So I don't know. Maybe we could see one in the future. I think that would definitely be on my list. Yeah.
yeah. So would you be like, so what is, if you had to choose one tag team, like person to be tag team partners
Let's
with?
go, Troy.
So you want to fight her and you want to tag with her?
Yeah. Yeah. Preferably in the same night.
If we're in the same night, well, yeah. If the tag doesn't go well,
then we'll fight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
So Robert Entertainment says the Cherry character could have a lot of fun in a tag team.
Definitely could. Yeah, we could see it.
Definitely see that. So, but as far as like we talked about this earlier, as far as like wrestling and genders and stuff like that. Do you think like we're going to see a lot of the independent companies around start to move away from having women's championship belts and just having sort of like just a championship belt that anyone and everyone can go for?
Just like we've had with the salt. Yeah. I think that's a really cool idea. I don't see why you need to have a gendered belt at all. I think you should still have enough titles or enough opportunity that's going to give everyone on the roster like a chance. But there's literally no reason that it has to be branded as a women's belt, especially when we are intergender completely. So yeah, I hope. I mean, I won't say I hope that people do it. It's whatever they want. It's whatever legacy they kind of have behind maybe their women's belt as well. There could be that history that you would want to hold on to. I understand that side of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever they would like to do. I like what we've done. I like that I get to wrestle Mick for this belt. It's given me that opportunity. So yeah.
And I completely understand where you're coming from, from that aspect. And I agree. I think that companies are going to start to move away from having gender specific belts, because I just don't think that with now it's like, I don't know, like, I don't know if it's Australian wrestling, but independent wrestling. And we're even starting to see it like now in mainstream wrestling, where like women and men are having physical altercations. They're sort of pushing that barrier now on like a WWE Raw, which I think is really, as long as, like I said, as you can make it believable, like Rhea Ripley picking up someone up and like slamming him, that's fucking believable because she looks like a fucking killer.
Yeah. Yeah. We still have to make everything be believable and realistic. We don't want to take people completely, out of it and be like, well, that would never work. That's just our job as wrestlers too. But yeah, I think that's cool. And I hope we can just push the envelope a bit further each time and get there.
Do you have crazy moments like where you have like crazy ideas and or like you've had people give you crazy ideas and you're like, yeah, that's not realistic. Like that's not going to be able to.
When it comes to being not realistic, I don't think I've come across any of those, but I've had a lot of fun with Backman playing with some moves. He's like, Cherry, come on, come stand on my shoulders. I'm like, oh, what if we like do this, and we can just do so much cool stuff. Like it's just, the possibilities are endless. So yeah, I haven't really had anyone come to me and be like, we should do this, and I'd be like, that does not make sense at all. No, I think we're all on the same page when it comes to staying realistic.
Oh, that's awesome. But we are at that time. It is time for 60 seconds with Piers. So how this is going to work, if you're a first-time listener or viewer, I'm going to ask Cherry a bunch of questions. She's got 60 seconds to answer as many as she can. Cherry, you ready for me to get this clock started?
Hi.
All right. Worst job you ever had?
Call center.
Okay. Which reality show would you rather appear on, Survivor or The Amazing Race?
Amazing Race.
The last show you recorded or downloaded?
Oh, I don't think I recorded or downloaded a show, but I can tell you the last show I watched.
Sure.
Cyberpunk 2077 on Netflix. Very cool.
Cool. Which celebrity would play you in a movie about your life?
Oh, I would what's her name? She's from Parks and Rec, Aubrey Plaza.
Okay, so what was your New Year's resolution?
To get better at wrestling.
You have the ability to change the ending of any movie. Which movie is it, and what would the new ending be?
These are hard, Piers. This contains a lot of thought. A movie that I changed the ending to. The only thing that's coming into my head is The Notebook, but I actually really love that ending because they die together, and I don't know if you've seen that, so I wouldn't change it.
I haven't seen it. And last one, in 5 minutes, you were being shipped to outer space. What 2 personal belongings do you take with you, excluding human beings?
A toothbrush, I guess, and Boggle, so I can play word games.
There you go. Cherry Stevens is getting shipped out of space. She's taking a toothbrush and Boggle. Cherry, where can everyone find you on social media and follow you and also buy some merch?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Merch. I'll have merch on Friday too, and I think you can pre-order if you want. So my Twitter handle is @booksarettight. Instagram is cherrystevens_PW for pro wrestler, and also follow Pro Wrestling Australia if you don't already, so you can watch me.
There you go. And make sure you tune in on Friday night on Fight TV. Is 7 o'clock start or 8 o'clock start?
7:30 to 8 o'clock start on the stream, I think.
8 o'clock stream. Make sure you check it out on Fight TV. If you are in Coogee, go to Selena's and check it out live. It is an amazing venue for wrestling. Go and check it out. Go support Cherry and go support PWA and Australian wrestling. But Cherry, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you again, and we have to get you back on again very, very soon. Definitely not going to leave it as long as we have. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Piers. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.